motion for approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Stady, second by Brian Cruz to approve the meeting agenda for tonight. Any discussion there?
Carrie, just one item. Under new business D,
Yes.
the township does not have a role in the approval of the transfer of this license. You can comment on it.
So we'll deem that discussion of.
Discussion of the transfer as opposed to approval, right? Yeah.
Okay, note that change then. $55.62 for a grand total of $55,408.31. Item D is approval of water expenditure checks number 2881 through 2886 totaling $18,415.08. Item E is approval of sewer department expenditures, checks number 1134 through 1137 totaling $14,727.66. Item F is approval of the monthly ACH payments to the state of Michigan and IRS in the amount of $3,975.30. Item G is approval for Manistee Lions Club to hold their annual White Cane Days on September 17th and 18th, 2021 at various locations in the township. And then we have item H, an addendum item, and that is approval for the Ragnar Relay Michigan long distance running race from Muskegon to Traverse City to pass through Filer Township and to be held September 24th and 25th, 2021, with proceeds being donated to the designated charity. If there are no other changes to the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion for approval. Second? Got a motion by Kalinowski, second by Dean Cruz to approve the consent agenda for tonight. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And I guess I forgot on the motion, on the consent agenda, I forgot to include the communications and announcements, but you have those in your packet. A is the letter dated July 21st, 2021 to the Planning Commission. B, the seeds brochure, and just a quick update on that. I think I had told you originally that they were planning on beginning that work either last week or this week. I got an email from Jennifer on that, and she said it's they've got some other things going on now. It looks like it's going to be 2 weeks out. That was as of a few days ago. C, you've got a short-term rental letter in your packets, and D, the water system improvement bond information. And I'm just thinking we ought to take a moment to look at that, discuss it, get any feedback from any of you that if you got questions or directions. Richard, did you have a chance to weigh in on that?
On the water system?
Yeah.
Well, you've got an email here, a letter from Brian Souza, couple of ways to fund the bonds, I mean.
Yeah,
um,
but he provided those at our request, that information as one way to go about it. I did have a discussion with Brian about a week ago on the phone about the infrastructure bill that the federal government is working on, and you know, should that get passed and everything, hopefully there might be some other funding avenues that we can look at after that. And, you know, his reply to that was, yeah, sure, wouldn't hurt at all to wait. You know, that might be a couple months out yet before we know anything there, but he said it wouldn't hurt to wait and see what happens there.
Well, Michigan gets a good chunk of change for water projects in that bill, so.
Yep. And with the rural development loan rates right now, what they are around 1.75 to 1.8%, you know, it's a good time to look at that as a funding source as well. So I guess, you know, unless you have some other direction for me, Brian did call me I don't recall now, it was Friday last week, or I think it was this week, early this week, Monday, and I wanted to know what, you know, what the board's response was to the information provided, and so I told him we would not meet, that we would be meeting tonight, and I will get back to him. So if there's anything you want me to share with him, you know, let me know. Otherwise, I think we'll kind of, my thought is to kind of sit on this.
Well, we have to be real serious about this, because I think we have to get it done.
Yeah, yeah, I think we've all kind of come to that consensus that it is something we need to do, and I look at seriously, so it's, I guess right now, my feeling is I would want to jump the gun and go into it and then have some funds available through the infrastructure bill that we wouldn't be taking advantage of, so that's basically what I'll tell them, and we're just gonna wait and see for right now.
Well, he painted the picture of the worst case scenario if nothing did
Right.
get it. So that's what we wanted to know.
Yeah.
So we have to wait and see if they do in Washington.
Yeah. Okay, public comment. Any public comment? Okay, moving into department and committee reports then, again, you have your report from Operations Services in your packet, as is the sewer report, item B. Item C, Larry's report is in your packet. D, Board of Review minutes are in your packet from the July meeting. E, the DDA Director's Report and notes are in your packet. Item G, the Planning Commission minutes are in your packet. Item I, Building and Grounds Committee, those minutes are in your packet as well, and under that we have a item for approval, recommendation by the Building and Grounds to approve the contract with Gary Schrader for painting, and it says here painting, but there's some other repair work he's gonna do, tuck pointing, that sort of thing, at all three well houses, and that bid is in the amount of $2,800.
I'll make a motion, we accept that bid.
And I will support that motion. So we have a motion by Brian Cruz, second by Walker, to approve the bid from Gary Schrader in the amount of $2,800 to do the work on all three of our well hoses. Any discussion?
Is this on the outside and inside, or
It's primarily outside town,
Okay.
yeah.
Because the housing over here is like a different kind of brick, and
Yeah,
I was just curious.
yeah. There is some, I don't know if you'd call it tuck pointing, but there's, like that to be done around some of the window framing. There's actually some real small gaps, but enough that water could seep in and cause damage.
I think there's some holes too, it's a couple of brothers, or there's some old pipes or something.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah. I mean, this started out initially as a, I guess, a request for well 4 work, and he said he had looked at it and thought that it needed some work, and I contacted Mike Hillerman right away, and he said, yeah, definitely it could use painting and you know, a little bit of concrete work, and so at that point I told Gary to put a bid together and get it to Bob Skira, and then while he was working over here at the rec center one day, and I stopped to check on his work and talk with him, and he took me over to the well house next door and pointed out a few things there, and so then he went with Bob to well house 3, and so that's how it became a bid for all 3 well houses. It started out with one.
Did he ever go good for Jim on the fire department?
Jim, did you get those doors painted?
Not that I'm aware of, I have no.
Well, check it out, because when I was talking with him at the rec center, he told me he was gonna
Okay.
get those, and I asked him why he didn't paint them to begin with, if it was in the quote, and he said in his estimation, they didn't need painting, they were in good condition, but he said, I will paint them.
I will check.
Okay.
This includes the paint.
Yes,
and
this
all
one,
materials.
yeah. Any other discussion? Okay, Shirley, you want to call roll, please?
Brian Bruce,
Yes.
Ball, yes, Ingrid,
Yes.
Kalinowski,
Yes.
Steggy,
Yes.
Pachinsky,
Yeah.
Walker,
Yes. Okay, item L, you do have Jim's report in front of you for the fire department. Looks like training continues to go on with the force, the manpower that you have currently.
Yeah, they're doing well. We've been training once a month with the local departments around the lake, Manistee Township, where those containers are that the fire association put up. So we've been doing monthly training with the other departments, so with Bear Lake and Onekama and East Lake and Stronach and Filer and City of Manistee and Manistee Township, Norman Township, they all been there, so we're working with all the other departments to do that different type of training, so it's working out real well.
Good. Okay, moving into new business, item A, we have consideration of approval to the ratified Lakeland fire break license agreement, which was dated September 7th, 2017. And my understanding is that this, I guess, fell through the cracks, or we couldn't find a signed agreement on it. Even though, yeah, according to the 2017 minutes, in July, it was approved. So, I don't know if Shirley or Richard, you want to weigh in on anything that you found out in your research?
Well, Lakeland called here and they wanted a copy of this agreement, which I didn't have and they didn't have. So, that is what led to what you have right here, and it's a matter of ratifying what we did back in September of 2017. I did talk to Lakeland, they did meet and they did approve
Oh, okay.
signing it, so.
So, yeah, this is identical to the one you looked at back in 2017. The only difference is in the date on the first line, is you'll see I dated it for reference purposes back to September 7th, 2017.
Yep.
Even though it won't be signed by the township until today.
Right.
But other than that, and we still couldn't find any sort of drawing, so we're just gonna have to follow
They give the description.
They give a description, starting, it's a 15-foot wide
Right.
trail that begins at the north side and the west end of County Line Road, and then
Yep, bends and winds.
bends and lines for so many degrees and so many yards, and,
Now, so this being dated 2017, this is a 10-year agreement
right,
that will renew automatically, and then after that, I think it said renews every 5 years automatically.
Yep.
So then is this gonna renew then in 2027 for the first time?
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
We're ratifying what
Right,
was
yeah, we're
done.
just ratifying what we did 5 years ago, right.
And I know there's one line in there, one paragraph that spoke to getting grants to do this, and if memory serves me, Jim, didn't you guys get a grant for this
Yeah.
project?
Through the
Right.
forest, through the forest service.
Yeah.
USDA.
Yeah, okay.
I have a copy of the grant stuff, but I mean, I could
Yeah.
find that, but I couldn't
Yeah.
find a signed version of this.
Right,
Or a map, so.
And
Yeah.
the people on it from Lakeland are different folks
Right.
that are going to be signing it, because the 2017 people are not in those offices anymore.
I was gonna ask about that.
Do they own, does that association own all of the property at that?
Yes,
They own all that?
yeah, this path runs from the end of West County Line Road into the oil well, and then out of the oil well.
It wouldn't be, never ever turned into the rest of County Line to tie into Red Apple or to Fox Farm. It's not possible with this road that they cut.
I don't think so. Well, the road ends up on, was it Fox Farm, at the very southern end of Fox Farm.
If you follow before we actually started construction, I went out and we followed the road right away. And when you get to the other end, there's a house at the end, and the garage is in Filer Township, and the house is in Grant Township,
Yeah.
and the road goes right in between the house and the garage, so they said that will never ever be, we couldn't run the road straight to the end of the county line because of that house there.
And there was a little pie in there that nobody owned. I was on board of review back many years ago when that lady was trying to build that house in the garage, so I know I'm familiar. I guess my concern is, we're worried about a contract going to the end of 10 years and then another 5 years. There's so much growing out there, new homes. Who's to say that they might not want to open that up so they can get all at that end, is what I'm saying.
Is there a cancellation?
I was thinking.
Yeah, you can cancel this on 30 days notice,
30 days
so,
notice.
Well, it wouldn't make any difference, it would become a public right of way.
yeah, if they want to make it a public road, they can make it a
Get our
public
truck
road.
through there
Yeah.
easier.
Right.
Definitely.
But if it becomes a public road, we don't need this agreement anymore.
That's what I think, yeah.
I wanna make a motion when we go there,
I'll support it.
because he did it already once.
Okay. All right, motion by Dean Cruz, second by Hachinsky, to approve the ratified Lakeland Fire Break license agreement, which was dated September 7th, 2017. Any other discussion? Okay. You wanna call the roll, Shirley?
Stady,
Yes.
Ryan Cruz,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Dean Cruz,
Yes.
Kalinowski,
Yes.
Kuczynski,
Yes.
Ball, yes.
Okay, item B is discussion and possible action regarding the Safe Built contract. I guess to back up a little bit and refresh everybody's memory, we did sign an agreement with Safe Built. I believe that was our June meeting that we signed a contract, but it had to go before the state licensing bureau for approval. For that company to take over our permitting and inspections. And the licensing bureau meets quarterly, so there was information that needed to be filled out and sent to them prior to the meeting in July, which Safe Built was going to attend and represent us. And I guess fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you choose to look at it, the date on that for submission of that information slipped by me. I knew I had to do it, and I knew I had to get it done in July, and when I got ready to do it, there had been a number of, I pulled it up, and I saw, uh-oh, deadline's passed, but at that point in time, I had already had calls from contractors in the area with concerns about that whole process. And I have shared that with a number of you, and Tom talked to some contractors, Brian talked to some contractors, I've talked to a number of contractors in the area, electrical, plumbers, general contractors, to get information regarding their experiences with working with Safe Built through the city, and I have yet to hear anything positive. And I've asked the city through Thad Taylor, had discussions with him about it on a couple different occasions, and no concerns, everything was good. The date of his retirement recognition at the Ramsdale, I spoke with Roger Zielinski about it, same thing. Everything's good. You know, when you're doing something new, you know, there's going to be some complaints about it, blah, blah, but it's going good. And so, even since those discussions, I've probably had 2 or 3 more conversations with contractors in the area. And I've come to the conclusion, I think, in regard to the cities working with Safe Built, either they're not aware of what's going on, what these issues are with our local contractors, or maybe they don't want to be alone going down a sinking ship. They'd like some company. But I don't want to be that company. If it's going to be a negative and a bad experience for our residents and our contractors. I also asked, initially when I started having these conversations, I didn't think to ask these builders about, have they done any work in Manistee Township? Because Manistee Township has done a similar kind of thing through another company, a different company, that takes care of their permitting and inspections, as opposed to the state. And so I did call back to people and asked them if they had any experience in Manistee Township. Both of them replied, actually I called 3, and 2 of them replied that they had done work in Manistee Township. Both of them, it was the same. They didn't have any problems with getting permits. They had no problems with the inspection. The guy showed up when he was supposed to, was on time. Everything went real smooth. They said he was very helpful, very easy to work with. The third builder that I talked with wasn't sure. He said he'd done some work on Coates Highway and didn't have any problems. I said, well, it depends on how far east you were, whether you were still in Manistee Township or where you're at, but, anyway, everything I've heard and gathered, there's two key issues that seem to keep coming up. One is permits being required by Safe Built that have never been required by the state. And we had that discussion, if you recall, I think in one of our board meetings when we invited Safe Built to come here, we raised that question. And the more I gathered information, I began to ask myself, well, is it a question of what the state code says, what the state building code says, or how it's interpreted, you know, what it says, how that's interpreted. Well, I had a conversation, and he told me he didn't care if I used his name. We all know him, Mark Neeson, done a lot in that area, and he said he in fact did call someone from the state because he had the same kind of concerns, the same kind of wondered about it. And he said the guy that he talked with from the state told him that some of those things are in the code book, but it's kind of a vague issue. Things like what we're talking about, for example, are putting shingles on,
Siding.
putting siding on, new siding, putting new windows in without changing anything structurally. And our builders tell us that, has not been required by the state and that it's not code. If it's a structural change, it does require a permit. Mark told me that since January of this year, he's had 75 to 100 calls and complaints, all centered on those issues. So that's part of it. The other part of it is the person that does the inspections for Safe Built. He's out of Benzie County. A gentleman by the name of Hagan or Hogan, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but his name came up over and over and over again. And not showing up when he said he'd be there to do inspections, being late, inspecting things that are out of his area of expertise, just all kinds of issues. So, I guess I've got two concerns. One is, and this is where Richard has to weigh in, we already signed a contract. That contract has a 90-day termination clause. We've signed the contract, but we haven't entered into this, because the state hasn't approved it yet. Do we look to go to get approval at the next, they meet quarterly? Do we look to submit the paperwork and at the next meeting and see how it goes? With the knowledge that we have a 90-day termination clause? Or do we not even pursue it any further? And if we don't pursue it any further, I guess my concern there, Richard, then is any legal issues coming back to bite us. I would think maybe at the least, we maybe owe Safe Built something for the paperwork they've done and the legwork they've done to get us to that point, but I don't know.
Well, I didn't bring that contract with me tonight, Terry, but as I recall it, no, we don't, I mean, they were paid on the base, at this point, they're not doing anything for us because we haven't been authorized by the state of Michigan
Right.
to administer the state building code on a local level yet. And until we get that permission from the state, Safe Built is working for nothing at this point. I mean, essentially, they're just trying to guide us to get to that point, so that
Right.
once we get to that point, then they've got a customer in Fiber Township that they'll start to charge for the fees and so on. But now, if they threaten to sue us, you know, is it possible to settle those kind of threats with offering to reimburse them some expenses? Sure, I mean, you can always do that. I don't see, however, that they would have any basis to do that if we gave them the 90 days notice. The contract is pretty clear. Either party can terminate it without cause on 90 days. So if you try to cancel it less than 90 days, yeah, we may have some legal issues. But the way it's written right now, no, I don't see any.
And we're really not, they cannot do any of this kind of work for us because they haven't been approved, we haven't been approved by the state
Right, yeah,
to have them work for us.
right.
So who are all these contractors that were?
I spoke with plumbers,
Specific names.
Hogan's, I spoke with Chris Hogan, I spoke with Rick Polson, I spoke with Matt Pomeroy, I spoke with Rusty Mankey. In fact, he was one that called me about it, because he heard that we were going that route, or looking at going that route. I spoke with Andy Prine, and of course Gary Neeson, or I mean Mark Neeson, I'm sorry, yeah, Mark. I think that is a complete list. It's not more than.
Put Josh Segala down in your reference to it, he'll give you a real good.
Yeah, Josh had some personal dealings with him
He had a whole personal.
that, as a lot of people have. I even had some contractors tell me that, you know, if I've got 2 jobs come up offered, one in the city and one outside the city, you know which one I'm gonna take. They don't even wanna work with this company, go through what they have to go through. And there have been incidences cited of people that have ended up getting extra costs attached to a job. Pardon me?
I think we get rid of them.
One thing Mark said, you know, touching on what you said, when I spoke to him, he said that everything, he's been doing this a lot of years, and everything, window replacement, roofing, siding, all that was considered cosmetic. It's the interpretation of the code or the state law. Everything was cosmetic unless you changed the structural integrity of a building. Open the window up or add a roof, or add a section of house or something like that. Everything was cosmetic, and now with these new people coming in, their interpretation is, it's the law, where you put a roof on, you gotta have a permit and all that. He said it's not the case, and you're opening up a can of worms, and according to him, he told me the city's trying to get rid of them, but
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard from the horse's mouth.
I heard from him, I don't know if he's the horse's mouth now.
So what about Manistee Township? Is that person regulating things like siding and windows?
I don't know, other than I asked that question, gosh, it would have been back in April, because I had a city resident ask me, you know, they said, we're getting siding put on our house, and they're telling us we have to have a permit for that. And I said, no, I can't believe that. And so I called Danny Berquist, because they have, you know, another company doing that, and he said he didn't think so, but he wasn't sure, he could talk with, the zoning administrator.
Guy, I know.
No, he's retired.
Oh, Karen?
Karen,
Karen, yeah.
Yeah, and, yeah, at this point, I can't even remember what she told me, but I know I spoke with her about it. But according to a lot of these builders and contractors, they're saying, no, that's not in the state code, it's not required by the state. I did speak with Tom Kaminsky here just within the last 2 weeks, and so I brought that up again. I asked him what's going on with it, how's it going, and he's still mad in a wet hen, and said, you know, it's not over yet, but he's.
so if that's really left to the person doing that job to be the interpreter of what that state language is, who's really in the driver's seat here? I mean, could
Well,
we tell those people?
I'm sorry?
Could we tell State Bill we don't want to regulate siding
No.
and shingles and windows?
No, I don't think you can. I mean, you're not a contractor, we're not a contractor, we don't know what the state building code requires. Where that would end up would be in the construction appeals board,
Yeah.
where you have 3 other contractors then take a look at that interpretation and make an interpretation. Now, theoretically, if the first contractor goes to the appeals board with a question, do we need a permit to put on new shingles? And the appeals board says no, hopefully the inspector and the safe built people would follow that interpretation from the Construction Board of Appeals in future permit questions, and that issue shouldn't arise again, but I don't know that that's how they would operate.
Yeah.
You
Well,
bring
what
up
do you
the-
And
think?
the thing you gotta remember too, Shirley, is their revenue is generated by,
Right.
solely by permits.
Right.
I mean,
What
would
right,
not,
what right does the resident have? It's on the, heck with the contractor. What right does the resident have living here their whole life, saying, I've never had to get a permit for a roof, siding, windows, now I have to? Don't they have no say?
so when you say hopefully State Bill would rely on the decision of that appeals board, are they not bound to rely on that?
I don't know. I mean, that would be covered by the construction code, and I mean, that's a big thing, folks. We'd have to look through that and see exactly what an interpretation by the appeals board has in terms of future permits.
I mean, this
Yeah.
appeals board is going to be made up of contractors, so we know how this decision will go.
Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But, Safe Built could convince them that, under the language they're looking at, a permit is required. I mean,
Ask the state for their,
pardon?
ask the state to tell you whether or not you need a permit to put a roof on.
Yeah, I don't know if the state will do that. They generally don't give out advice.
I thought we were under, I thought this was the way we had to.
No, we could have stayed
No.
with the state doing it.
Jack Berquist and that I talked to said they never had any problem working with the state,
Then we should get
the way it's been.
I think we should get rid of it.
See, and we kind of explored this, looked at it for 2 reasons. One being that at the time we were doing the renovation on the Dempsey house, for an office building for us, I'd gotten some information, from contractors who were working there, that it's getting difficult to get permits. It's changed so much, and I think that all stemmed from, loss of manpower to some extent. Where they said they used to be able to get permits easily, now they have to go to Lansing, and sometimes with a trip to Lansing, they couldn't even get it that day, they'd have to go back again or whatever, and so that was kind of in the back of my mind, and the other thing was with the reporting that Molly Whetstone was telling us that she, with the city anything that's being done, she gets a report every Friday from them. And so she knows she can update everything on the tax cards and everything. Much better for the municipality in terms of no loss, revenue, nothing slipping through the cracks. Well, then after getting into this and then talking with these contractors, and I asked them, and they said, no, we can go online now and get permits from the state. Now, I don't know if they could before. And that was the first call I got on it, the first concern that I had on it, was from Andy Prime. He said, the thing I don't like is that we have to physically meet with them to get a permit. And we can't do it online. And I thought, well, that's an easy fix, we can tell them that we want them to, they're a big enough outfit nationwide that they ought to be able to offer that. Well, then later on some other literature that I was reading of theirs, I see there was a website that offered online permitting. And I don't recall where I read it or how it was, what the email address was. But I thought, well, it doesn't say anything about safe building, something else in the address. And I thought, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's confusing. People don't know they can get these permits on. It just kind of, after that, it just kind of snowballed with complaints, I guess, concerns.
How does Molly get her report on what's happening now, being as we're
Look
doing?
up somewhere and finds that somebody's done something.
Oh, physically has to do the
Yeah.
search?
Yeah. But she should be getting.
Larry ought to be getting
updates
her
from
copies
Larry.
of the
Yeah.
zoning permits.
Right.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah,
For the same thing we get, he
Right.
gives it to Molly.
right.
But Larry isn't giving any kind of permit for windows.
No. But if somebody puts an addition on their house, Larry's got a copy of that.
And it's in our copy. So whoever's making up our packet here can just put one in Molly's.
Well, Molly calls for that kind of thing periodically. She'll
Okay.
ask for a copy of all of the zoning permits. And it's a matter of what you're just saying right there. We give her what he's given us.
You get people who do their own stuff.
Yep.
You wouldn't know a thing.
Yeah, contractor.
And that's why she was,
I got a hammer in the nail.
I personally know people who've done that.
Okay, well, is there any direction you want to give me, or?
90 days, we're done.
I'll support that.
Richard, you want to take a look at that and see if, even though we haven't officially entered into it yet?
Well, we signed
need
the
to
contract, yeah. I mean, if that's, I take some action, somebody needs to make a motion and so on, but.
Is that consensus? Well, make a motion and then we can discuss it.
Motion is made, I support it.
Okay, so we have a
What's your
motion by
motion?
Dean Cruz
Yeah,
to
Terminate the contract.
terminate the contract.
terminate the contract with Safe Built, and second by Hachinsky.
Yeah.
Okay, now discussion.
Using the 90 day.
Yeah. Well, the question is, what's plan B here? Because we still have, you did submit the application to the
To
state.
the
did
state,
you
no, I
not?
did not.
Oh, it still hasn't gone in?
No.
Oh, okay.
When
He missed
this
it.
all blew up,
You sat on it, all right.
I
okay.
sat on it. And I did get a couple of emails from Safe Built,
Yeah,
and I said, I'm gonna wait till I get more information,
okay.
so,
So we don't have to find another
no.
No.
The state has
service
not,
company.
the state hasn't act,
And we don't have to reinstate ourselves with the state of Michigan, but
We haven't-
never
we're
taken.
still
Yeah,
through the
never got
state.
stated in the first place, yeah.
I got an email from the state and from Safe Built that, this meeting, we were there, and why weren't you there? Well, because we didn't get the paperwork from the township, so there was no meeting.
Right. Well, they didn't have a quorum. You remember, that was the email we got from the state, was that the meeting never happened because the people that the state couldn't get a quorum together.
Yeah, And also.
And by the, oh, no,
By the way,
you didn't have your paperwork.
We didn't get the
right?
paperwork from the township, so, yeah.
Yeah, there was two
So,
reasons.
you
for
know,
that.
and in retrospect, you know, as I started hearing more and more, you know, I kind of thought, well, I guess that was a blessing in disguise. That didn't happen, so.
So this contract will be terminated effective today?
No,
Effective
We're
when?
gonna give them 90 days notice.
From which day?
Well, whenever the notice goes out.
Okay. So how will I write this motion?
Well, I would suggest that maybe Dean amend the motion to authorize Terry to send out the notice of termination. And, I mean, I'll write the letter, I can write the termination notice.
and I'll email it.
Yeah. Well, there may be, we may have to send it certified or something, I'll have to look at the contract,
Okay.
but it will be 90 days from the date of the notice, and we'll get the notice out here in the next few days.
Let's put that in there.
Whatever he said.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, the only amendment surely that you need is that Terry be authorized to send the notice.
Yep.
As soon as possible.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Sure, you want to call the roll on that, please?
Ball, yes. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Achinsky,
Yes.
Dean Cruz,
Yes.
Stady,
Yes.
Brian Cruz.
Yes.
Okay, item C is consideration of approval to endorse the countywide broadband service. We've got that information that was disseminated last week, Thursday. We listened to the presentation. They were requesting, I believe they are seeking monetary support to do the study, but they're less than that. They're looking for a resolution of support, and I believe, if I remember right, they even threw in a
There's a lot.
sample resolution.
There's a sample letter.
Yeah.
We didn't draw anything up because, you know, it's just language in here that you may pick and choose part of, if any at all.
And again, you know, we discussed this a little bit last week, Thursday. There's a lot of questions right now, I think, up in the air. You know, the college, school districts, dark fiber that's out there. I don't know what your thoughts are. I feel like we'd be jumping the gun to provide any financial support for that, but,
We had a few discussions, you know, it's been 2 or 3 years when the county had a summit at the Randall Theater, and that was one of the subjects that they talked about. And that's 3 years ago, and evidently it didn't go through. And we also had a discussion with, my mind just went blank. When the guys were gonna put it up on our tower,
And
they
the
were gonna
prime.
run the fiber optics from there over to, it was gonna go from the bungalow to the tower,
Yeah.
and they were gonna furnish everybody in the township with service, and that fell through. So evidently it cost us over.
well, and I recall that they threw a price tag out there, what that was gonna cost them. It was just too much. I don't remember what that price tag was, but it was a lot of money to, like you say, for that short
I
distance.
think it was 50, 60 grand just to get the fiber from that corner to the fire tower or something.
Yeah, I don't remember the amount, I just know it was
Now you can just sign up with Elon Musk and his satellites.
I don't agree with giving tax dollars from Tyler Township to, I think everybody in Tyler Township's got good coverage. I have not had anybody come to me and say, we don't have coverage. You know, we discussed a little bit of that, Tom, you talked about how big of a cable you had coming. And I talked to a person that knew something about the ISD circuit that's going to Brethren, owned by the school system. They're only using a quarter of it. When you talk about dark fiber, those fibers get brittle and they crack, so they're maintaining it for future use. They're not allowing the public to use it. You should probably know a little bit about that with the college. The college has got some of that stuff going.
Yeah, we just approved it, I mean, it's all Scott Ward that